So today I want to talk to you about Edinburgh Marathon and my reflections upon running it just yesterday. So how did I do? Did I do well? Did I not do well? What have I learned? So if you're a marathon runner and you like to reflect on past experiences, this will be incredibly relevant to you. So keep on watching, keep on listening. Welcome back to consecutive day 1820 of a diary of a runpreneur. And today's topic is all about Edinburgh Marathon, which I ran yesterday. How did it go? What did I learn? What will I take from this experience moving forwards? But before we get into that, please don't forget, this vlog is part of a fundraiser of saving the lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultra marathon of run vlogging on consecutive days, a distance of a lap of the world, barefoot style. And the more people we get in front of, more money we raise, more children's lives we save, which is why I do this every single day. So back to the topic at hand. Edinburgh Marathon, how did it go? So ran Edinburgh Marathon just yesterday, and overall it was a really enjoyable marathon. I say an enjoyable marathon, it was so sporadic and eventful. I think it was an enjoyable marathon. I just try and compare. It's my 15th marathon in total now, or marathon or ultra marathon in total now, and on past reflections, it was a nice marathon. It was good. It was pretty flat, a bit of downhill to begin with, relatively flat throughout the rest of the marathon. So it is a pretty fast course, but the issues you've got to kind of contend with are weather related, and something you have to obviously take into consideration when you're running in places like Scotland. The weather's going to be a little bit variable, and you need to bear that in mind. When you're running something like London Marathon in April, you can be relatively sure that the weather's going to be of a certain nature. You do get a little bit of extremes, but up in Scotland, the weather can be very, very different and very, very variable, so something to consider. So how did I do? Well, I said before the marathon, I was, based on my training plan, I was fit enough to go for just under 3 hours 30. Now, so I gave that as a window, 2 minutes either side. So I was going for somewhere between 3 hours 28 to 3 hours 32. Now, before the marathon though, I did adjust my predicted time because the weather forecast was horrendous. It was, we had warning emails from the marathon organisers just confirming that the marathon is going to be incredibly windy. I think it was 25-mile-an-hour winds, 40-mile-an-hour gusts, and also forecasted torrential rain, which is not what you want to see before a marathon. Now, I didn't really know how to adjust for this. My prediction was when a marathon is super hot, which I have experienced on a couple of occasions now, I kind of worked out that it's probably a fair reflection to adjust maybe by about 5 minutes from when you're starting to when you're going to finish. I will kind of do a bit more research on what would be a sensible kind of prediction on that. I probably should have done a little bit more research on this, but I did allow for the weather forecast. I decided that it was highly unlikely to be PB conditions. Not that I was ever fit enough to go for a PB. PB is 3 hours 24, so to try and get a PB was unrealistic. I was trying to get under 3 hours 30, but based on the conditions, I moved my prediction back 5 minutes. So on the basis that I believed I was fit enough to be just under 3 hours 30, that meant it was going to be between 3 hours and 33 and 35 would be the target, but with a 2 minute margin either side. So between 3 hours 33 and 3 hours 37. So I finished the marathon in 3 hours 37 minutes and I think 55 seconds. So I just crept under 3 hours 38, which was my adjusted prediction margin. So I came in where I believed I was fit enough to come in from, which to me is one positive. You have to kind of take positives from the experience. How was the actual race? What did I learn from it? Well, first and foremost, I learned that the weather has a massive, massive bearing on a marathon. And this instance, I mean, this is the most erratic, sporadic weather I've had in a long time. So the way Edinburgh Marathon kind of works is it's almost an out and back, but not quite. So you do 2/3 of the marathon, which is you're kind of going out of Edinburgh city centre, and then you're going out through Musselburgh, and then right along the kind of coast or the estuary at the sea, and you then get to the end at about 18 miles, and then you turn back on yourself and come back and finish at Musselburgh, which you ran through, maybe mile 8 or something. I think you ran through Musselburgh. So it's a kind of a half out and back. You do 2/3 of it in one direction and a third coming back. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. Now, the problem that we faced was that it was the wind was so strong, it was changing the weather consistently. And what do I mean by it was changing the weather consistently? Well, for starters, it started off windy throughout the day. It was pretty consistently windy. That's one thing that did remain. But it was sunny to begin with, to the extent that I've got a tan line across my forehead where I've been wearing my snood that I wear as a sweatband. And so that shows you how strong the sun was. We then had torrential rain on 2 occasions throughout the marathon. We had a mini hailstorm where the stones were of such strength they were stinging your body, on your arms, your face and your legs. So we had hailstones in it. And then I think the worst part was when we made the turn, we had 8 miles to run coming back. When we turned 18 miles, it was into a 25-mile-an-hour relentless headwind, which just did not give up. You had no window of kind of comfort. So when I look upon that and I look upon my adjustments to what my target time was and how I adjusted, I have to say it was a successful marathon, and I have to be content with that. Obviously, you kind of have your heart set on a certain time, but with the adjustments made and the expectations set, I feel I'm getting a little bit more accurate at predicting marathon performance. Because my last kind of 2 marathons, which were Manchester Marathon, Loch Ness Marathon, were pretty underwhelming performances, and I felt a little bit despondent after both of them. So I don't feel that way after this one. I feel that I adjusted accordingly to my fitness, to my training regime. In terms of running the race, a little bit disappointed because I hit the wall again at kind of 32 kilometres. It seems to be pretty standard. Those last 10 kilometres seem to be excruciating. That's so common for so many people, but I look at it and think, did the wind play a massive issue? Because I turned at the end and I was still feeling good. It was only a couple of miles into this 25-mile-an-hour headwind that it really started taking its toll. So maybe that extra level of exertion made me hit the wall and lose my kind of reserves that I had in store for the last 10k. So again, I can't be too critical of myself there, but my pace did drop pretty significantly. Not anywhere near as bad as what it did in Manchester, where I think I came in at 4:47. So I was 10 minutes quicker than Manchester. Fair enough, I had a good few weeks better training for Edinburgh than I did Manchester. I was in the build up to that, I was recovering from a skiing injury, hamstring tear. So overall I was very happy. The other positive was, I fueled for the race fuel, felt okay. I think the issue is with the racing fuel, I did feel a little bit sick towards the end. I think what that probably comes down to is the dextro tablets that I've been using. I used them at Yorkshire Marathon when I ran my PB bizarrely, but I think for the last intake of tablets, I think I switched to maybe jelly beans, and I think that was a better move than sticking to dextro. Dextros are great, and they seem to give you a bit of a boost, and they're easier to digest whilst you're running. So I was quite happy with them, but I think I had just one too many of them, and it made my stomach feel a bit sick towards the end, which didn't help things. So that's something to learn from. The good news is the silicone sheets I was using, I've got one minor blister. I mean, to the extent that I'm running today with no padding, no plasters, no nothing. I strained the blister yesterday evening, and I'm running and the feet don't feel too bad. So the silicone sheets were a massive win. And I said before the event, if I could get through the marathon and have no blistering issues, that would be a win in itself. So that I'm massively satisfied with from a performance perspective. That gives me confidence that I can really have a go at these now in future, if with better training and a better kind of thought process behind things. So that was a big win for me that I'll definitely take moving forward. The other thing I learned was that, bizarrely, I should have learned this a long time ago, but roads can feel so different when you're running a marathon. If you're a barefoot style runner, right, and obviously you're running a road marathon, generally speaking, if you're in big padded footwear, you won't notice the difference. But when you're a barefoot style marathon runner, and you feel everything that the roads have to offer in terms of lumps and bumps and pebbles and shingles and all that type of stuff, the different kind of materials they use in building even tarmac roads, you get some with really coarse parts and you get some that are completely smooth, and the difference that feels on your feet is huge. So that's something I took from it. Just when I'm running, try and find the smoothest style of tarmac to run on to kind of prevent wear and tear on my feet. That's only going to be very niche. It's very relevant to barefoot style runners, not your typical runners in padded footwear, but something that I've learned, so something that I feel I should reflect upon. Overall I felt it was a decent performance. I'm content. I wouldn't say it was a massive victory, but I also wouldn't say it was a massive disappointment like I felt from the past 2 marathons I've run before this one. So I'll take the positives there. It's just some random car skidding around the corner in pretty treacherous weather. So ultimately I'm content. So learnings from my diary for today is that I think it's really important to reflect upon a marathon event when you've done one, because the planning, the preparation, the logistics and everything that goes into it is so full on, and it can almost take over your life for a number of weeks before the event. So it's only fair that you kind of provide feedback and reflect on it, and what did you learn, what would you do better the next time. It's really, really important you kind of do these things. And from this performance, the one thing I learned was definitely adjust your expectations based on the weather. Okay, in ideal weather conditions, fine, go with what you're expecting to perform at. But if you've got variable weather conditions which aren't optimal marathon weather is kind of between 8 to 12 degrees Celsius. It's kind of optimal. You don't want rain, you can kind of deal with, but you don't want wind. You don't want heavy wind. And it's rare that you're going to get wind that only gives you a benefit rather than penalise you at some point. So unless you don't want crazy heats, and even really cold marathons, I think you can run better in the colder conditions than you can in the hot. So weather conditions make a massive difference. And if you're not ideal, potentially adjust your estimated completion time by up to 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more. I'll do a little bit more research into that for the next one, but I wasn't far off on this one. I adjusted for 5 minutes and I came in at the back end of my margin for error, if you like. I have a 4-minute window for what the target time being in the middle, and I came in just 2 minutes after what the adjusted projected time was. So I'm pretty happy with that prediction. What else did I learn? I learned that the silicone sheets that I tested and tried, they actually worked, and I had very little blistering issues. So that's going to be a massive win that I take forwards into the next marathon. I learned also that my fueling strategy on the day, although it wasn't a bad performance at all, I think I had one too many of the Dextro energy tablets because it made me feel a little bit sick towards the end. So I will tweak that for the next one. And yeah, other than that, I have to say I'm fairly satisfied with the performance, which is a nice thing to say, because when you've been for the last couple where you've been pretty despondent after the marathon performances, it's actually quite nice to feel this way. So yeah. But anyway, that's it from me today. Any questions or comments, drop me a line. Anything relevant I'll respond to. Do remember though, if you believe in my mission of saving lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultra marathon of run vlogging on consecutive days, a distance of half the world, barefoot style, do give us a subscribe, share, like and comment. More people we get in front of, more money we raise, more children's lives we save, which is why I do this every single day. I think as always, stay positive, stay happy. I'll see you again tomorrow.